This week, Carlos Sainz is going back to Australia, which was the lowest point of his Formula One career last year. He had a disappointing start to the season, but things are different this time around. He's not happy with how the 2023 Ferrari is performing and the results it's getting, but he's not as worried about his own driving as he was last year. Although Sainz has better results than the other Ferrari driver, Charles Leclerc, he's been the weaker performer. Leclerc was faster than Sainz in Bahrain qualifying and was way ahead when he had to retire. Sainz was slower than Leclerc in Jeddah Corniche circuit qualifying by just over half a second. But this gap was bigger because Sainz didn't do well on Saturday. He finished one place ahead of Leclerc in the race because of Leclerc's penalty, which made it tough for him on Sunday. Sainz knows he needs to avoid making the same mistakes he did last year and have a strong start. He wasn't ready for the first race last season, which resulted in him ending up in the gravel in Australia. But Sainz isn't worried about his driving this time and admits that the SF23 Ferrari car has weaknesses that need to be addressed. "I haven't done too good qualifyings, but the feeling with the car is okay," said Sainz when asked by the race about his personal performance level. "I think the biggest struggle has been the car in dirty air and the first stint in Bahrain. The first stint here, it's just very difficult to follow with this car. We already have overheating on our own, we have an overheating problem even higher when we follow a car. So this is probably the main struggle. Otherwise, the feeling is always good in free practice. I just haven't hooked up laps in qualifying with this car. But this doesn't worry me as I know as the season goes on and I improve my feeling, it will come. And I've stayed relatively consistent in the race. I'm bringing points even if it's not the right points and wanting to be on the podium and fighting for wins. We're not there yet, and until we're there, time to bring the points and get our heads down on the development," he said. Albert Park has never been the happiest of hunting grounds for Sainz. His best finish there was 8th in 2017 when driving for Toro Rosso, with a couple of 9th places and a 10th for Renault in 2018 also to his name. Last year's race was a catastrophe, one that was self-inflicted but with the caveat that it followed significant misfortune. In qualifying, which he described as a disaster, the combination of an ill-timed red flag and then a problem firing up his car that denied him a proper tire prep lap left him 9th on the grid. He then had to have a steering wheel change shortly before the race. That meant incorrect settings at the start and the car going into anti-stall. None of these problems were down to Sainz, but by his own admission, he reacted poorly. He was shuffled back down to 14th on the first lap after an overly ambitious move to go around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda that allowed Haas driver Mick Schumacher to get ahead. He then ran wide at turn 9 after passing Schumacher on the second lap, spinning back across the track and ending up in the turn 10 gravel. As he put it, "With the rush of wanting to come back through the field, I made a driving mistake." This was a low point for Sainz during a difficult start to the campaign. After finishing second in Bahrain in 2022, he spoke of that weekend being very behind, the most far that I've been ever in Ferrari, in practice, and it being his most difficult weekend. His trying spell only really came to an end when he had a strong run to second in the 9th race of the season in Canada once he'd got more on top of the demands of the car. But this year, the car is the problem. While brisk over a lap, it struggles over a full stint, and it's improving the car that's Sainz's priority. Although the SF23 is not the easiest car to drive, Sainz doesn't believe he has a fundamental problem with extracting the potential of the car as he did last year. The return to Australia will be a reminder of his struggles and the point where he lost his head trying to recover from a series of setbacks outside of his control. But with those troubles defeated last year, he'll know he potentially faces a more frustrating challenge this year as Ferrari battles to get on terms with Red Bull.